Good day everyone. At this juncture, we will be discussing the chapter 6 which is about the semantics. But before going further to the presentation, we would like to introduce our group members first. So our group consists of two people. The first is me, Sheila Isanan, and the second is Ma'am Dacoy. So let's just move to the first topic, and it is going to be delivered by me. So, what is semantics? Basically, semantics is the study of meaning in language. It is a wide subject within general study of language, and it is the area of linguistics interested in meaning and the many ways that we can describe it. So, to easily understand what semantics is the study of the meaning of words, phrases, and sentences. Let's move on to semantics as part of a grammar. So why is semantics part of a grammar? Semantics is a crucial part of grammar because it deals with the meaning of language. While grammar typically focuses on the structure of language, which is the syntax, and the sounds of language, which is the phonology, semantics adds another layer by addressing how words, phrases, and sentences convey meaning. As a preliminary, we should note that in everyday English, the word mean has a number of different uses, many of which are not relevant to the study of language, just like for these examples. First, is I mean to help if I can. Second, this will mean the end of our regime. Next, his losing his job means that he will have to look again. Next, those clouds mean rain. Lastly, she doesn't mean what's said. These uses of the word mean can all be paraphrased by other expression that is indicated in the parentheses above. Just like, for example, the first sentence above, we can say, I intend to help if I can. Second, this will result the end of our regime, and also the same with the other sentences. None of them is appropriate for our discussion of word and sentence meaning. Rather, we will use the terms mean and meaning as they are used in the following example. First, procrastinate means to put off doing something. Second, in saying it's getting late, she meant that we should leave. So, these two uses of the word mean exemplify two important types of meaning, and that is the linguistic and speaker meaning. Linguistic meaning refers to the meaning that is encoded in the words and structures of a language. It is the meaning that can be found in a dictionary or a grammar book. Speaker meaning refers to the meaning that a speaker intends to convey with their utterance, taking into account the context in which the utterance is made. In short, it is the meaning that a speaker intends to convey with their words in a particular context. For example, if someone says, it's cold in here, the speaker meaning might be a request to close the window or turn up the heating, even though the literal meaning is simply a statement about the temperature only. Next example, suppose that you've been arguing with another person who exclaims, the door is right behind you. You would assume quite rightly in this context that the speaker in uttering this sentence means that you are to leave, although the speaker's actual words indicate nothing more than the location of the door. So this illustrates how a speaker can mean something quite different from what his or her words mean. So, in general, the linguistic meaning of an expression is simply the meaning or meanings of that expression in the language. And in contrast, the speaker meaning can differ from the linguistic meaning depending on whether the speaker is speaking literally or non-literally. When we speak literally, we mean what our words mean, and in this case, there is no important difference between speaker meaning and linguistic meaning. But when we speak non-literally, we mean something different from what our words mean. So there are two non-literal uses of language, and that is sarcasm and irony. For example, when we say, that movie was a real winner, when we author it in that way, we understand that the speaker to mean that the movie was a flop. Metaphorical uses of language are also types of non-literal language use. As for example, when someone is described as having raven hair, ruby lips, emerald eyes, and teeth of pearl. Taken literally, this description would indicate that the person in question is a monstrosity. However, taken metaphorically, it is quite a compliment. Returning now to question of linguistic meaning, it is useful to keep in mind the distinction between the linguistic meaning of an expression and a given speaker's literal or non-literal use of the expression. Furthermore, in talking about the linguistic meaning of an expression, we must note that meanings can vary across dialects and across individual speakers. One of the examples is the American English, the word bonnet. So this word refers only to a type of hat, whereas in British English, it can refer to the hood of a car. The language of a particular individual is referred to as that person's idiotic, and it is clear that the idiotic meaning of a word can differ from one person to another, even among the people who can be said to speak the same dialect. What is meaning? Historically, the most compelling idea concerning meaning has been that meaning is some sort of entity or thing. So let's now proceed to the denotational theory of meaning. If one focuses on just some of the expression in a language, for instance, proper names such as Dacoy, Italy, or dialects such as I, now, that, one is likely to conclude that their meaning is a thing they refer to. This relation between a linguistic expression and what it refers to is variously called denotation, linguistic reference, and semantic reference. Denotation is the literal or primary meaning of a word, and in contrast to the feelings or ideas that the word suggests. Linguistic reference is the relationship between words or phrases in a language and the entities, events, or concepts they represent in the world. And lastly, the semantic reference is similar to linguistic reference but focuses more on the meaning or interpretation of words or phrases in a particular context. It is about how language is used to convey meaning. So this denotational theory of meaning posits that the meaning of a word is its reference or the object it stands for. For example, in the sentence, the cat is on the mat, the word cat refers to the actual physical cat, and mat refers to the physical mat. But then, critics argue that not all words have clear reference. For example, abstract concepts like justice or love might not have direct concrete reference. Next is mentalist theory of meaning. So we have two. First is meaning as images. Meaning is tied to mental images or representation. Next is meaning as concepts. The idea of meaning as concepts emphasizes the role of abstract concept or ideas in understanding meaning. This theory suggests that the meaning of a word is a mental concept or image associated with it in the mind of the speaker or listener. According to this view, when someone says cat, it triggers a mental image or concept of a cat. But then, critics argue that relying solely on mental concepts can be problematic, as different people might have different mental associations with the same word. Next is the sense theory of meaning. French in 1892 argued that some ideas cannot be meaning since ideas are subjective and fleeting, whereas meaning is subjective and relatively stable. We use language to pass on information from person to person. This theory distinguishes between the sense or intention and the reference or extension of a term. The sense is the way in which the referent is presented or grasped conceptually, while the reference is the actual object or entity in the world. and denotations are not enough because if language consisted only of form and denotation, then an identity sentence such as the example A would carry the same information as example B. Wherein letter A says that the morning star is a morning star, and letter B says that the morning star is the evening star. But French says that the B does not convey the same information as letter A, since one can believe the first but not even be aware of the second. French's solution was to propose that all referring expressions with a denotation also have what we called a sense, wherein it is a way the denotation is presented or known to the language user. For instance, you might know a person as a lady who lives next door without knowing her as the principal of Martha Graham Elementary School. French also proposed that whole sentences have a sense. Next is the use theory of meaning. This theory, associated with Ludwig Wittgenstein and others, emphasizes the importance of how words are used in language. According to this view, the meaning of a word is determined by its use in the language community. Words gain meaning through their use in communication and various language games. So, consider the following uses of the word water. In geography, the river is fed by mountain waters. In this case, waters refer to the bodies of water, such as rivers or lakes. In agriculture, we need to water the plants. In this context, water is a verb meaning to pour liquid onto plants to help them grow. But then, in this theory, critics argued that this theory might not account for all aspects of meaning, such as the meaning of abstract or theoretical terms. So, in conclusion, it is fair to say that researchers do not have a very clear idea what meaning is. Although the theories we have surveyed are in various states of disarray, the situation is not hopeless as there are still promising avenues of approach to this topic. Let's now turn our attention to certain meaning properties of words. So, these meaning properties refer to various aspects of meaning that help us understand how words or expressions function in language. These properties are fundamental to understanding how communication works and how language conveys information. So, here are some of the important semantic properties. First is ambiguity. It is the presence of multiple possible meanings for a word or expression. For example, he found a bat. In this case, bat has two meanings. First is bat as a baseball or bat as a flying mammal. Next example, she couldn't bear children, and bear also has two meanings. First is bear as in give birth and bear as to put up with. So, with this example, the italicized word is ambiguous because it has more than one meaning. The ability to detect ambiguity is crucial in the communicative process, and successful communication can depend on both speaker and hearer recognizing the same meaning for a potentially ambiguous word. So, next semantic property is polysemy. This is a phenomenon where a single word has multiple related meanings. So, this is often defined as a property of having more than one related meaning. Example, table can mean a certain kind of furniture, or it can be the act of putting an item at a meeting on hold, saying, she holds the motion. Another example is the word head. In here, head can refer to the body part or the leader of an organization. Another semantic property is anomaly. When particular words put together in the phrases is anomaly. Its expression is anomalous when the meanings of its individual words are incompatible. Just like for this example, gradually plummet, colorless green idea, and dream diagonally. Of course, it is almost always possible to impose a meaning on such expression. Indeed, certain forms of poetry demand that the reader impose a meaning on anomalous expression. For example, to dream diagonally might be taken to mean to lie diagonally in a bed while dreaming. But this is the result of a special interpretation which speakers could argue about at length. The point is that expressions like those examples have no conventional interpretation in English. So let's move now to meaning relations. Not only do words have meaning properties such as ambiguity or having a meaning, they also bear various meaning relations to one another. So, just as words can be related morphologically, they can also be related semantically. Meaning relations refer to the ways in which words, phrases, and sentences are related to each other in terms of meaning. These relations help us understand how language is structured and how different linguistic elements interact to convey meaning. So here are some common meaning relations. First is synonymy. This is the relationship between words or expressions that have similar or identical meanings. For example, big and large are synonyms. Another example is smart and intelligent. Both words describe someone who is clever or has a high level of mental ability. Next is homophonous. These are words that have identical pronunciation but have distinct spellings in the written language. Examples are Mary, Mary, and Mary. Next is homonymous. These are two words with the same spelling and pronunciation. For example, the word bank referring to the side of a river versus the word bank referring to a financial institution. Next is meaning inclusion. This is a meaning relation where the meaning of one linguistic expression is included in or entails the meaning of another expression. Examples: the meaning of sister includes the meaning of female. Another example: the meaning of kill includes the meaning of dead. When we put words together that are related by meaning inclusion, we derive expressions that are redundant such as female sister and idiomatic expressions such as she killed him dead. Let's now move on to semantic field. There are a set of words or expressions related by meaning, forming a cohesive domain of concepts within a language. These words share a common semantic property or theme, and their meanings are interconnected in a network of associations. So here are some classical examples of semantic field. First is the color terms, the red, green, blue, and yellow. Next is kinship terms, wherein it involves mother, father, sister, and brother. And lastly, cooking terms, it involves boil, fry, bake, broil, and steam. Next is antonymy. This is the relationship between words or expressions that have opposite meanings. For example, hot and cold are antonyms, wherein hot describes high temperature, while cold describes low temperature. Another example is big and small, wherein big describes something of great size, while small describes something of little size. Let's move now to sentences. So what is sentence? Sentences are grammatically complete units of language that convey meaning and expresses a complete thought. It composed of words and phrases, and we can also expect that certain semantic properties and relations of words and phrases will carry over to sentences as well. So among the meaning properties and relations of words and phrases that carry over to sentences are ambiguity and synonymy or paraphrase. So here is example of synonymy. First sentence says his pants were too small, and it's synonymous to his pants were not big enough because they have the same meaning. Next example is ambiguity. She visited a little girl's school. In this sentence, it is not clear whether little modifies only the word girl. She visited a little girl's school, or modifies the sentence girl's school. She visited a little girl's school. Speakers often disambiguate such sentences for their hearers by using stress and pauses. So let's now move to one of the important property of a sentence, its communicative act potential, wherein it refers to the range of possible communicative actions that can be performed using a given linguistic expression or utterance. The CAP of an utterance includes all the possible elocutionary acts that can be performed using that utterance. Elocutionary acts are the speaker's intended communicative actions, such as making a statement, asking a question, giving a command, or expressing an emotion. Thus, a speaker who wants to assert or state that something is true will normally utter a declarative sentence. So, we are all aware that declarative sentence is a type of sentence that makes a statement or expresses a fact, opinion, or belief. For example, the sun is shining. This sentence has the potential to perform the elocutionary act of stating a fact about the weather. On the other hand, if the speaker wants to issue an order, request, or command, this is an imperative sentence. For example, please close the door. This sentence has the potential to perform the elocutionary act of making a polite request for someone to close the door. Finally, if a speaker wants to ask a question, then an obvious choice is an interrogative sentence. Just like for an example, what time is it? His sentence has the potential to perform the elocutionary act of asking for the time. So let's move now to truth properties, wherein this refers to the characteristics or features of statements or propositions that determine whether they are true or false. Consider first the property of being linguistically true, also called analytically true or just analytic, or linguistically false, also called contradictory. A sentence is linguistically true or linguistically false if its truth or falsehood is determined solely by the semantics of the language, and it is not necessary to check any facts about the non-linguistic world in order to determine its truth or falsehood. A sentence is empirically true or empirically false if it is not linguistically true or false. That is, if it is necessary to check the non-linguistic world in order to verify or falsify it. Knowledge of this language alone does not settle the matter. Semantics is not concerned to explain empirical truths and falsehoods, but it is concerned to explain those sentences that are linguistically true or false. With examples, it is possible to determine the truth values without regard to the actual state of the world. So, let's take a look at example number 1 from A to D. First sentence says that either it is raining or it is not raining here. So, it is true. Next, if John is sick and Mary is sick, then John is sick. So, it is true. Next, it is raining here and it is not raining here. It is false because at first it says it's raining and it is not raining. Lastly, if John is sick and Mary is sick, then John is not sick. It is false because at first it says that John is sick. We have noted that there are truth relations as well as truth properties that fall within the scope of semantics. One of the most central truth relations for semantics is entailment. It is a logical relationship between two statements where the truth of one statement logically guarantees the truth of another statement. In other words, if a statement A entails a statement B, then whenever statement A is true, statement B must also be true. So just like for this example, first a statement says that the car is red entails the car has a color, because we all know that red is one of the colors. Next example, the needle is too short entails the needle is not long enough. From these examples, we can see that the first sentence in each example, if true, guarantees the truth of the second, and the falsity of the second sentence in each example guarantees the falsity of the first. So another truth relation is semantic presupposition. This refers to the implicit assumptions or background beliefs that are taken for granted by the speakers and listeners in communication. Falsity of the presupposed sentence causes the presupposing sentence not to have a truth value. Furthermore, both a sentence and its denial have the same semantic presupposition. So this presupposition, where if you miss the hidden meaning or the implicit assumption in the sentence, it can get you in a lot of trouble. So for instance, let's just go right into the example and then we will explain the presupposition with this sentence. So imagine you're in a courtroom, you're sitting up there in front of everyone, and of course, you have a lawyer coming over to you. So he's walking towards you and the first thing he says, "Do you regret killing him?" So you have to answer yes or no, but no matter what you answer, yes or no, you are already admitting to killing someone. That's because this word regret presupposes that you have already done something. So this is a presupposition. So because I say, "Do you regret killing him?" I am assuming that you have already killed him. So this is our assumption is you've done it already. So this is why in course you can ask these leading questions, these presupposing questions like, "Do you regret killing him?" You have to ask, "Did you kill him?" Because in a panic you can say yes or no and not realize that the sentence leads you to pleading guilty regardless of how you answer it. So the only correct way to answer this question was, "I did not kill him," but that's so much harder to come up with that just yes or no. What kinds of constraints on a semantic theory are reasonable to impose? It is generally considered that even though a natural language contains an infinite number of phrases and sentences, a semantic theory of natural language should be finite. People are capable of storing only a finite amount of information, but they nevertheless learn the semantics of natural languages. The second constraint on a semantic theory of a natural language is it should reflect the fact that, except for idioms, phrases, and sentences are compositional, in other words, that the meaning of a syntactically complex expression is determined by the meaning of its constituents under grammatical relations. The existence of compositionality is most dramatic when compositional expressions are contrasted with expressions that lack compositionality. In example 1a, the expression "kick the bucket" has two meanings. One of the meaning is "John kicked the bucket" is compositional. It is determined on the basis of the meaning of the words and is approximately synonymous with "John kicked the wooden pail." The other meaning of "John kicked the bucket" is idiomatic and can be paraphrased as "John died." Idiomatic meanings are not compositional in the sense of being determined from the meaning of the constituent words under grammatical relations. That is, one could not determine the idiomatic meaning of the first sentence by knowing just the meaning of the words and recognizing familiar grammatical structure. An idiomatic meaning must be learned separately as a unit. Modifiers can create other complications for compositionality, which must also be reflected in a semantic theory of the language. So let's contrast the arguments in number 4 and 5. So let's take the first example. "That is a gray elephant" is true. "All elephants are animals" that's also true. So that is a gray animal. It's also true because in the first sentence it's already stated that the elephant is color gray, and in the second sentence it is stated that all elephants are animals. Next example is "That is a small elephant." It's true. "All elephants are animals." It's true. So that is a small animal. It's false because the first sentence only described that the elephant is small and it didn't say that all elephants are small. So in conclusion in my report, in this section we have specified and illustrated a number of semantic properties and relations that a complete description of a language must account for, and we have also motivated some very general conditions on such an account. So that's all of my report, and thank you all for listening.
Good day, everyone! This is just the continuation of Ma'am Sheila Marie Isanan's report of Chapter 6, Semantics, the Study of Linguistic Meaning. I am Dacoy, the discussant of 6.4 Special Topics. The issues we have just surveyed represent common ground for most semantic theories. However, many topics are the special concern of particular theories, and the problems they pose for semantics form part of its research agenda for the future. We have mood and meaning. Mood and meaning traditional grammars of English say that a verb is in, for example, the subjunctive mood if it has a certain inflection, verbal morphology, and the sentence is in that mood if it is a mean verb. We can call this verbal mood. According to this person, 1924 championed the alternative idea that modes are best analyzed sententially as forms with certain conventional communicative function, what we earlier called communicative act potential. We can call this sentential modes. In what follows, we will be speaking of sentential modes exclusively. The major modes of English are traditionally said to be the declarative, imperative, and interrogative. For example, letter A, declarative, snow is white. Letter B, imperative, leave the room. Letter C, yes or no, interrogative, is snow white? Snow is white. Letter D, WH, interrogative, what time is it? You saw what? But there are also minor modes exemplified by the following examples. Letter A, tag declarative, you've been drinking again, haven't you? Letter B, tag imperative, leave the room, will you? Letter C, pseudo imperative, move and I'll shoot, move or I'll shoot. Letter D, alternative question, does John resemble his father or his mother? Letter A, what a nice day. Letter F, optative, may he rest in peace. Letter G, one more sentence, one more beer and I'll leave. Letter H, curse, you pig, bag of wind. So the distinction between major and minor mode is not clear-cut, but intuitively, minor modes are highly restricted in their productivity, are peripheral to communication, are probably low in the relative frequency of occurrence, and lastly, vary widely across languages. We have two semantic dimensions involved. First, the sentences are all used to perform different types of communicative speech acts, and second, connected to each type of speech act are certain satisfaction conditions. So, the first dimension is sometimes called the force of utterance. The second is called the content. For instance, snow is white has the force of an assertion, and the content of that assertion is that snow is white. So thus, these two sentences have the same content but different forces. They are both used to assert, but they are used to assert different things. In general, we would not say someone understood sentences in the various modes unless that person understood both the relevant force and the relevant content. The problem facing existing semantic theories is to account for the force and content of sentences in the various modes in a way that meets four plausible conditions of adequacy. Number one, the theory should account for semantic force and content compositionally. Number two, it should assign sentences information that is specific enough to enable speakers to communicate literally and directly what we intuitively suppose them to communicate using these sentences. Number three, nevertheless, it must assign sentences information that is general enough that all sentences with the same mode can have the same force potential. Number four, it must not postulate implausible or unintuitive ambiguities in sentences of the various modes. At present, No theory of mode and speech acts is able to meet all of these conditions. We have dictics and proper names. To avoid confusion, we use the term refer to for what speakers do and the term denote for what words or phrases do. Under this terminology, the object or objects referred to by a person is called the referent, and the object or objects semantically referred to by a word or phrase is called the denotation of that word or phrase. So we have two kinds of expression. First, we have dictic expressions and proper nouns. So, two kinds of expressions seem to be especially apt for referring to objects when we then go on to speak about so-called dictic expressions and proper names. So, dictics is the word comes from the Greek word for pointing, and the idea is that dictic terms pick out the reference like pointers that is in virtue of some relation to the context of utterance. There are two means of divisions of dictic terms. We have indexicals, demonstratives. So, in this, they are unlike names which are given to persons, places, and things, and unlike definite description. Example, the plus noun, which refer by describing the reference. So there are two divisions of dictic terms. What I said earlier, there are two, which is the indexicals, demonstratives. The expressions illustrate the purest form of indexicals. Letter A, I. Letter B, now. Letter C, here. An indexical expression is one that has indexical use, that is a literal use to refer to something in virtue of its relation to the actual physical utterance. Example, I used to refer to the speaker of this utterance of I. Letter B, now, used to refer to the time of this utterance of now. In this case, is the meaning of the indexical plus the context, speaker, time, place, etc. determines the reference, and that reference alone is what the statement is about. Some indexicals involve explicit descriptive information as well as indexicality. Example, A, yesterday, B, tomorrow. We have also the demonstratives, involve a supplementary gesture, demonstration, or special setting in order to determine reference. Typical examples include letter A, this, that, those, he or she, it, and letter D, you. Using demonstratives successfully to refer involves more than just the aspects of the context of utterance required by indexicals, speaker, time, place, etc. Dictic words can have other uses and need not always be used dictically. Letter A, here we go again. Another bumpy landing. Letter B, you never know, you can tell a book by its cover. Letter C, come on now, you don't believe that. Letter D, I felt this cruelly thing on my leg. These uses are not dictic because they are not uses of the expression to refer to something via the actual production of the utterance, nor are they accompanied by a demonstration. We have also proper nouns. As Kaplan, 1989, comments, proper nouns may be a practical convenience in our mundane transactions, but they are a theoretician's nightmare. They are like bicycles. Everyone easily learns to ride, but no one can correctly explain how he does it. G.S. Mill, 1843, first proposed the referential theory of proper names. Proper names are like labels that mean what they name. As we noted earlier, Fridge, 1892, claimed that if this were true, then sentences with two names for the same thing should be no more informative than sentences with the same name repeated, but clearly they are indeed more informative. Example, A, Bob Dylan is Bob Dylan. B, Bob Dylan is Robert Zimmerman. We learn something from the second sentence that we do not learn from the first. But how could that be if names merely introduce their bearer in the proposition expressed? We have also the description theory. This theory explains our ability to refer using names in terms of our ability to refer using definite descriptions. It solves some of the puzzles mentioned for proper nouns. For instance, sentence can be informative because the different names abbreviate different descriptions. The sentence should therefore feel to have a complete meaning, but intuitively it does have a meaning. This problem leads some theorists to propose a description theory of proper nouns. So, proper names semantically are abbreviated, definite descriptions of what they mean. So, we have also the referential theory. According to this theory of proper names, names contribute only their bearers to what is said, but that seems insufficient to meaning. So, a compromise has been defended. According to Bach, names have only nominal descriptive content, yielding the nominal description theory of names. So, definite descriptions have the form the F, where F can be anything appropriate to a noun phrase. A, the book on the table. Letter B, the first man to walk on our moon. Letter C, the dent on the finger. By far, the most influential theory of the semantics of definite descriptions is Russell's 1905 theory of descriptions. Russell proposed sentences containing definite descriptions are to be analyzed as general sentences. Example, letter A, the first person to walk on our moon is right-handed. Letter B, the F is G. Letter C, there is just one thing that is F and it is G. Some theorists have objected that Russell's account fails to reflect an important ambiguity in descriptions. Consider normal uses of the following sentences. Letter A, the tallest man in the world must be lonely. Letter B, the woman drinking a martini is a famous linguist. On the first attributive use of the definite description, the rule of the description is to set down conditions that determine the referent. Example, the first person to walk on our moon might not have been right-handed. On the second, referential use of the definite description, the description is not essential to picking out on the referent. An important thing is the object or person itself, not how it happens to be described. The description is chosen mainly to help the hearer recognize what or who the speaker has in mind and is referring to, but any device might have done as well. In this case, that guy over there, him, Neil Armstrong, and so forth. At present, there are two major competing theories of what determines reference. The previously mentioned description theory and the historical chain theory. Description theory is that an expression refers to its referent because it describes the referent either uniquely or uniquely enough in the context that the referent can be identified. And the historical chain of theory says in effect that an expression refers to its referent by virtue of there being a certain historical relation between the words uttered and some initial dubbing or christening of the object with that name. So, for instance, in the view, when a speaker uses the name Charles de Gaulle, it refers to the person christened by that name, provided there is a chain of uses linking the current speaker's reference with the original christening. This view proposes no unique description to pick out the proper referent. Rather, it proposes that referential uses are handed down from speaker to speaker, generation to generation, from the original dubbing or christening. Next, Putnam suggests that there is a division of linguistic labor. In language, normal speakers depend on defer to experts in these matters. Reference with these terms is therefore in part a social phenomenon. In this respect, natural kind terms are similar to proper names on the historical chain theory. If a speaker utters a sentence in which in P1C commands in P2, then the hearer may assume that the speaker intends to refer to two distinct persons or things. Finally, notice that we can use more than one anaphoric device in a sentence and thereby affect its linking. For instance, allows he either to be linked to John or to refer demonstratively to someone else. John said, that he was tired. Letter A, John said that he was tired. And letter B, John said that he was tired, that man over there. Character and content semantic minimalism. And as mentioned, semantics is more or less the official framework in contemporary linguistic semantics. Our brief review of the theory of reference raises the question, what are the truth conditions for sentences with referring questions? Expressions rather. To see the problem, consider these sentences. Letter A, I am here now. Letter B, that is a nice car. Letter C, John is tired. And the character, the person speaking is at the location of utterance at the time of utterance. Letter B, the object demonstrated is a nice car. And letter C, a specific person named John is tired. So, what is content? Letter A, if the person speaking is Sam and the place of utterance is Paris and the time of utterance is January 1, 2010, then the content of the utterance is Sam is in Paris on January 1, 2010. Letter B, if the object being demonstrated is Al Capone's car, then the content of the utterance is Al Capone's car is a nice car. Letter C, if John Adams is the person being referred to by John, then the content of the utterance of John Adams is tired. So that's all. Thank you for listening. Have a good day. Thank you so much.